I'm Dr. Brett Osborn, board-certified neurosurgeon, nutrition specialist, and featured BPI Sports expert. As far as the induction phase, yes, you can be too aggressive, and you can have a tremendous amount of lull or a lag if you try to induce ketosis too quickly. It all depends upon an individual's tolerance, like anything else. So I usually induce my patients slowly into this modified ketogenic diet, but the same applies for a ketogenic diet. So you would want to restrict carbohydrates in a decremental fashion over a week, over 10 days, even longer than that, depending upon your tolerance, and ultimately get down to your goal of 20 to 25 grams of daily carbohydrates a day. So that's that it would be too aggressive or too much if you did it any faster and you were intolerant to it. And that point is one of the, or that factor is one of the main reasons why people quit the high attrition rate with going keto. It's because individuals tend to fall off when they experience that lull, and that lull has to do with the fact that the metabolism is shifting over from one that normally uses glucose and carbohydrate to one that is reliant on fats primarily as a fuel source. So what you have to do to avoid that problem is just go really, really slow and slowly turn the biochemical pathways or induce those biochemical pathways that allow you to better use fat as opposed to using sugar or glucose as an energy source. The other thing that falls into that category of being too much in the context of keto is what I had alluded to previously, which is the potential muscle loss while an individual is on a ketogenic diet or even on a modified ketogenic diet. You have to pay very, very close attention to this. You can shed muscle while you're on a ketogenic diet, even though ketones themselves have anti-catabolic effects. Still, if you know people that because they wanted to lose a lot of body fat, and this is outside the realms as an example of bodybuilders who typically stay lean, if you know somebody that went on a ketogenic diet because they were morbidly obese, a lot of times when you see them at a later date, say 6 months later, they've lost not only a lot of fat, but they've also lost a lot of muscle. So you have to be very, very careful about being too aggressive during your carbohydrate restriction. That means, if it means getting on an in-body scale or using calipers or getting a DEXA study and working the math and figuring out what your skeletal muscle mass is, it would be worthwhile to do something like that because there's a tendency to shed muscle. So you may find that the sweet spot for you is, instead of 25 grams of carbohydrates a day, you may be in ketosis, so 0.5 millimolars or slightly greater if you're running at 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. And some people can stay in ketosis at 50 grams, and they're shedding fat, but they're not shedding as much muscle because their insulin signal is slightly higher by virtue of the higher carbohydrate load. The other thing that you can do to temper this a little bit, and I had said this before, is take your BCAAs, and those have anti-catabolic effects. So yes, people can go to extremes and go to 5 grams of carbohydrates a day, but I can assure you that if that happens outside of any other factors, you're going to end up losing a significant amount of muscle mass over time. So you have to be careful. It's do something, intervene, then recheck. Then make a little modification and then recheck. And that's what we do in my office. It's the exact same thing. We have a scale, and I can tell whether or not somebody is shedding muscle versus shedding fat. So it's very, very important. If you don't have a scale in your home like that, and a lot of these scales are not so great, go to a physician that has access to a scale like that, or go get what's called a DEXA study, and they'll be able to tell you body fat percentage and skeletal muscle mass as well. So